Hi, it's Georgiana from Adorn-It, and I'm so excited to have you join me today for our heart embroidery class. Now, this is so cute. It could just be on its own. It's absolutely adorable, but we have it special designed to hang in this beaded wire wreath with our Adorn-It floral and all the fun pieces. This was my first sample. You can see I added a few more details for the finished sample, but I'm going to walk you through all these embroidery stitches and you'll be able to do this. So if you're a beginner, welcome. And if you have been around us here at Adorn-It for a while, I hope that you learned something fun with this fun class. So let's get started. Okay, to get started, we need to get our embroidery pattern, our background fabric, and then we included these heat and bond hearts that are already pre-fused. So that means the adhesive is already on the back side. And we're going to go ahead and get started with this. So you're going to take your heart, very first, you're going to press your fabric, and then you're going to take this paper side off of your heart. So this just peels right off like this. And now this is shiny. That means that that is adhesive. And you're going to take this and you're going to place it in the center of your fabric. Now we need to iron that on to the fabric. So we're going to take, and you can take it to your ironing board. I use a wool mat, so I'm just going to take this. Now, if you want to kind of look through your paper, you can see my fabric is cut large enough that my paper is going to fit. So as long as I have this heart in the center, I'm going to be totally fine. Now you're going to take your iron and you're going to place low heat onto your fabric, and that's going to activate the heat of the heat and bond, and it's going to glue the two fabric pieces together. You can also take and flip it once you've got it placed on the front, flip it on the back side and give it a little bit more heat on the back side to activate that glue so that it sticks your heart down and won't come off. Okay, I have my heart glued onto my fabric. So now I'm going to take my embroidery pattern, and it is a sticker. So I'm going to peel the back side of this off. So you can see that pulls apart. This fabric side has a texture to it. That is our stitch pattern that dissolves underwater. So we're just going to peel this off. And be careful it doesn't peel back onto itself. And then what we're going to do is we are going to line this up, the heart in the center, with our fabric heart that we glued on. So that is how we place this onto our fabric. So now you can see my fabric heart is underneath and I have my stitch pattern on top. I'm going to put this inside my hoop. So I'm going to take my inside ring and put it on the bottom, and my outer ring goes on the top. And I'm just going to center this the best that I can. Now, the size of this embroidery pattern, you will have to adjust your hoop a little bit, but that's okay. So now we're just going to tighten that. And when you tighten your embroidery in your hoop, you just want to make sure that your fabric is taut. You don't want it too tight that it's going to stretch your fabric, but you want it tight enough that your fabric is not going to bubble or get puckered, okay? So there we have it. I like to say you can just kind of hear it almost kind of like a drum. It's just nice enough, but not too tight that it's going to stretch your fabric. Use double strand on all of our embroidery for this heart, okay? So we are using Sulky Embroidery Floss, which is a brand of embroidery floss that we absolutely love and use in all of our Adorn-It projects. You can use any type of embroidery floss, but this is the kind we use. And double strand of a 12 weight cotton embroidery floss, okay? So this is what one strand looks like. We're gonna use double strand. Now let me show you what that means. We're going to take and we're going to thread our needle, and I'm using a number 6 sharp embroidery needle. Not all embroidery needles are made equal. You want to make sure that you're using a sharp one, okay? So it will make all the difference. We have Adorn-It needles that are fantastic. You can find those on our website. but as long as it is a sharp embroidery or crewel needle, then you will be great. Okay, so this is what 2 strands of embroidery floss look like. So I've taken and I've threaded my needle onto the 1 strand. It folds in half, and then I'm going to do a quilter's knot at the top of my 2 strands like this. I will show that to you again. Okay, a quilter's knot is where you take your embroidery floss and your needle, and you're going to take I'm right-handed, so this is my right hand, and I'm going to put my needle over the top of my 2 ends of embroidery floss. I'm going to wrap it 3 times around. Then with my pointer finger and my thumb, I'm going to hold on to the needle, and then with my left hand that's free, I'm going to pull that needle, and there I am left with a knot. If you have a very long tail, you can trim it off, but you want to leave a little bit of space between your knot, otherwise it will come undone. And that is how you do a quilter's knot. The very first stitch for our heart is the one and only stitch that I say everybody needs to learn, and that is a back stitch. As long as you can learn a back stitch, you can do any embroidery. So it is, for me, the most basic stitch, and it's the one I always start with when I teach. So the back stitch is going to be all of these flowers that we're going to do here, okay? Now, the back stitch is exactly as it sounds. You're going to go backwards. So we're going to start right here on this flower, and you're going to come 1 stitch length forward, so you can see my needle right there. You're going to come up, and now my knot is on the back of my fabric, okay? And then I'm going to put my needle back down on that stitch, and I'm just going to nicely pull it. Now you don't want to pull tight, it will pucker your fabric. It's just enough that your thread and your fabric are meeting each other, okay? Now you're going to go forward 1 stitch length, and you want to try to keep these stitches the same distance as much as you possibly can so that they look nice. And then the other secret with the back stitch is you want to go back down this previous stitch hole as close as you possibly can. That's going to make your back stitch turn out really, really nice. So I'm going to put my needle back down that previous stitch hole right there, and I'm going to pull that thread. And now you're just going to keep going and following that line, going 1 stitch length forward, and then going back down that previous stitch hole, and that creates the line. Now, if you have tiny areas, you can do a tinier stitch, but for the most part, you always want to keep those stitches the same distance as much as you possibly can. So 1 stitch length forward, and then right back down. And just keep going around your flower, and that's how you can create your back stitch. When you're done, you're going to flip your hoop over on the back side, and you're going to just tie a knot on the back side to finish your thread off. And then go ahead and clip that thread just like that. That's how you do a back stitch. I've switched my needle over to pink so I can show you the back stitch one more time in the center of this pink flower. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to stitch the back stitch, going 1 stitch length forward, going back, and we're going to go around the perimeter of this teardrop section of the flower. And I'm just going to go a little bit faster as I go around this edge, but you can see you go 1 stitch length forward, and then you go right back down that previous stitch hole. Okay, now we have this teardrop portion of the flower completed, and there are 2 lines in the center of each of these flowers. So we're just going to do one straight stitch. So we're just going to come up at the top of the line right there, and then we're going to bring our needle back down at the bottom and do 2, they're called long stitches, just to fill that in. And now that portion of the flower is complete. We're going to add a knot on the back side, and that's how you do the flowers. I've switched over to the French green, and we are going to teach you a stem stitch, which is another really great basic stitch, and a lot of people actually learn their embroidery with a stem stitch. I prefer the back stitch, but the stem stitch is another really great stitch that is very common. And so we're going to do the vines of all these flowers in the stem stitch, okay? And I am right-handed, so you're going to go left to right. If you were left-handed, you would go right to left when you do the stem stitch. So I'm going to take and I'm going to bring my needle up on the left-hand side of this line right there. And I am at the very beginning of the vine. So I'm going to bring my needle up, and then I'm going to keep my thread above the line at all times, okay, as I'm stitching. Now to begin your stem stitch, you're going to go 2 stitch lengths forward. And this is only to begin the stem stitch. So you go 2 stitch lengths forward, and then you bring your needle down, but keep a loop, because now you're going to bring your needle right back up in the center. Just like that. So your needle's coming right back up through the center, and then you're going to finish pulling that. Now this begins your stem stitch. And remember how I say you want to keep your thread above your line. And so now we're going to go 1 stitch length forward from here on out. So 1 stitch length forward, and then you bring your needle right back up the previous stitch hole. Just like that. Bring your needle up, and it creates, to me, a rope texture. So that's why you want to keep your thread always in the same direction above your line, this loop, to create that rope-like effect. So pull your needle, bring your thread back up, go 1 stitch length forward, bring your needle right back up that previous stitch hole as much as you possibly can. Just like that. 1 stitch length forward, and then bring your needle right back up that previous stitch hole, and you're just going to keep going right along that vine. Now, one little tip to double check your work to know if you're doing this correctly is on the back side of your fabric, you can flip it over, and it will look very similar to a back stitch. And that's how you know you're doing your stem stitch correctly, is if that looks like a back stitch on the back side, okay? So I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm going to finish out this stem stitch. Okay, I've reached the end of my stem stitch. So now I need to finish it off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my needle and I'm just going to tuck it right down that last loop in the middle. And I'm just going to push my needle down through my fabric, and that's going to bring my needle now on the back side. And now I'll just take and I will knot it off on the back side. And that is how you do a stem stitch. So all of your vines will be done with the stem stitch. I've switched my thread over to the 1177. It's a little bit of a brighter hue, and so that's what we're going to do all of our petals. And a few of these shorter vines are the 1177, okay? Now the shorter vines are a back stitch, So we're just going to do all the petals, a stitch called Lazy Daisy. So this is such a fun stitch, really simple and easy. One of my favorites and really easy to pick up. So you're going to take and you're going to bring your needle up at the very bottom of your petal. You're going to loop it, and then you're going to come right back down right next to where you came up and bring your needle down. Now you want to keep a loose loop right there, because now you're going to take and you're going to bring your needle back up again at the top of your petal. Just like this. Now you're going to lightly pull your thread. You don't want to pull it tight, because if you pull it too tight, it's going to close in the petal. So we're just keeping it enough that it's nice and taut, but not tight, okay? Now we need to secure that Lazy Daisy stitch. So we're going to take and we're just going to jump over the top of that loop and place a little tiny stitch to secure the top of that loop. And we're going to pull that down, and ta-da, you are done with the Lazy Daisy stitch. That is how you do it. Now we are going to turn it over, and we're going to place a knot on the back side and then trim our thread. You don't want to jump around and have one big long thread jumping around your project. You want to clip it off as you go. So let's go ahead and let's do another Lazy Daisy stitch. We're going to do this second petal down here to show you the Lazy Daisy stitch one more time. So you bring your needle up at the bottom of your petal, make a loop, bring your needle back down close to where you came up, keep a loose loop, bring your needle back up at the top of your petal, bring your needle up, not pulling too tight, and then jumping over the top of that loop, making a little tiny stitch that secures that together, and knot it off on the back, and you have your Lazy Daisy stitches. So all of these little petals all over the heart vine, flower vine, are going to be the Lazy Daisy stitches. Next, I'm going to teach you a French knot, which are these little knots that are polka dots. We use these all the time on our embroidery. I love them, but it is a knot that most people, when I teach, say they have a hard time with. And so I am excited to teach it to you. And I always tell everyone, practice makes perfect, and you can totally do a French knot. Okay, so we're going to take and we're going to come up the back side of our fabric. Okay, now this is going to take 2 hands to do a French knot. So you pull your needle up through. Your knot is going to meet the back side of your fabric, okay? Now you're going to take and you're going to wrap your needle or your thread around your needle twice. Okay, can you see that? And then you're going to hold on to the thread, keeping it taut, and then pushing your needle back down while holding on to this so that you have a grip on that thread. Then with my right hand, I'm reaching back under my hoop to pull the needle, and that creates the knot. Okay, let's try that again. So I have my left hand holding onto my thread. My right hand is what's going to control the needle, okay? So I'm going to bring my, and these are close by each other so I don't create a secure stitch on the back until I'm done with the 3 knots, okay? So now we're gonna bring our needle right back up. With my right hand, I'm pulling my needle. I'm gonna set it down. Left hand, I'm gonna hold the thread. I'm going to wrap it around twice. Then I'm going to put my needle right back down close to the same stitch hole, holding onto the thread with my left hand. Now my right hand is going under the hoop, pulling the needle from the underside, and it secures that French knot. Okay, one more time. Up from the bottom, wrap it around twice. Now, I'm going to pause here and I'm going to say, with French knots, it's really fun because the amount of times you wrap your thread around the needle is how big your French knot gets. If you wrap it around once, it's a tiny French knot. If you wrap it around 4 or 5 times, it's going to be a big, thick, chunky French knot. So that's the fun part of a French knot, is you can control how big a polka dot you make. Okay, so all right, so this one, I just wanted a nice medium-sized one, so that's why we're doing 2 wraps around. Have my needle, wrap it around twice, put my needle right back down as close as I can, right from where I came up. Pull from underneath my hoop, and that creates my French knot. You'll notice I don't have a long string, like a long, I kind of did it a shorter amount so that I didn't knot and tangle my thread. So if that makes sense, that sometimes helps if you're just learning how to do a French knot. Now I just knotted it off on the back side and clipping it. And then now you would go to your neck section of your French knots. So all those little polka dots around your heart are going to be French knots. I'm going to teach you the pistol stitch, which is this fun line with a French knot at the end. And this is a really, really fun stitch that I actually learned from our friends at Stitches of Love Quilting, and it is a really fun stitch. So it is very simple. You're going to bring your needle up at the bottom of your line right here, and then you're going to take and you're going to pull up your needle. Then you're going to need both hands again because we're doing a French knot, but we're just going to wrap it around. You can wrap it around once or twice. I think I did twice. And then you're going to take and you're going to place your needle back down at the end of your line, okay? Like that, and create that French knot, and that creates that pistol stitch. So let's do that again. So you bring your needle up on one end of your line, wrap it around twice, and bring your needle down on the other end of that line. Place it down, just like that. That one I did a little bit too loose. Okay, let's try it again. This is a little tiny line. I'm gonna probably go a little bit longer. So I'm gonna bring my needle up, wrap it around twice, and poke it right back down. Just like that. And then knot it off on the back side, and you have all these fun details of your pistol stitch for your heart. We're gonna do a satin stitch, which is also a fill stitch. So it's where we're going to take and we're gonna fill in these berries, and your thread goes side to side really close together to create a fill or a satin stitch, okay? So we're going to start at the top of our berry, and we're just going to make a small stitch for the top, and we're just going side to side. We're going left to right. Then you're going to come right back down close to your previous stitch because we want it to fill the area. So it's important that you go pretty close together. We're going to go left and down on the right. And we're just going to keep making that same exact motion, left to right, close to where your previous stitch was. And we're just going to keep following those lines all the way down this berry, going left to right. And you want to keep the same motion, the left to right, or I guess if you're left-handed, you could go right to left. As long as you keep the same pattern, then it's going to go ahead and it's going to fill that area. And again, this is called a satin stitch. And you just keep filling in those lines all the way down your berry. When you're done and you get to the end, you're going to turn it over on the back side and knot it off. And there you have a satin stitch. we're going to do the running stitch. So these next 2 stitches are going to be adorning the heart that's in the center. Now my first sample, I did not do that, and I thought it just looked way too plain, and so I definitely redid it and added some more detail in the center of that heart. Okay, so running stitch is where we're going to do the inside line. There's 2 lines on this heart. It's the inside line. We're just going to bring our needle up at the bottom of our heart, and we're going to go 1 stitch length forward, and then we're going to skip a stitch. So that's why it's called a running stitch, is because you can do this one really fast, and it's just like you're running down the line as you stitch, and you're just skipping a stitch as you go. So you're just going to do short little straight stitches coming up and then going back down all the way around your heart. When you're done, you're going to knot it off on the back side, and this one will go really fast because there's not a lot of thought that goes into this one. Just making sure you try to do the same length of stitch and trying to skip your stitch about the same length as well. So those are the 2 tips, is trying to keep that as consistent as you can while you go along. I'm going to teach you the chain stitch. So that is the last adorning detail around the outer edge of this applique heart. Now you're going to do this in 2 halves. So you're going to do 1 half and the other half, and we're going to start at the bottom and go around to the top and stop there. Then you're going to come back down on the right hand side, start at the bottom, go around and meet there, because there is a pattern to the way the chain stitch goes. So if you were to make it continuous, it would also look fine, but that's the way that we did this, is went from bottom to top on both sides. Okay, all right, let's get started. This is very similar to the Lazy Daisy stitch, except that you are keeping your stitches going. You're not making the secure stitch on the top until you get to the very, very last one. So you come up from the bottom, loop it, go back down close to the same stitch hole, keeping your loop, come 1 stitch length forward. See, my needle is coming up through the center of that loop, bringing your needle up, and now with a Lazy Daisy stitch, you would secure that, right? But we're not. We're going to keep it going. So we're going to make another loop, and we're going to come back down inside that previous loop. Okay, we're going to come right back down that way. And then now we're going to bring our needle back up, center of that loop, and that creates your chain. Loop it, bring it back up through the center. You can see I have the loop, and it just chains together, which is why it's called a chain stitch. And this is going to create a nice border that's really fun detail around your heart. Oh, if your loop does that, that's okay. Just with your hand, just kind of pull it over. And then bring your needle back up through. Okay, you're going to keep going all the way up around, like I said, and you're going to stop here in the center. But when you get to that, or you need to rethread, you're just going to do exactly like a Lazy Daisy, where you're going to jump over that top loop and secure it down, and then knot it on the back side. And then you can just start and go again when you rethread. I finished stitching this cute heart. Looks so good. So I'm going to rinse it underwater now and watch the magic happen.